Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. We are playing, we're playing a little brutal Doom here. Because what's more brutal than Doom? Brutal Doom. Pretty brutal. I think Brutal Doom probably has the most satisfying shotgun to ever be put into a video game. If I had to just guess. Also, I've turned down the sound like 3 times now. Still way too loud. There we go. I don't know if it's possible. I'd like to find a way, maybe, for Archipelago. If I could do Brutal Doom with that instead of just normal Doom, that'd be fun. I mean, you'll never find a shotgun in, like, any other game. It's just that satisfying and powerful and just visceral. So good. Anyways, happy Easter. So anyways. This week on this channel, we have, we finished, finally, Gloomhaven, Crimson Scales. That was a long playthrough. I think even when I started it, I wasn't sure exactly how long it would end up being. But, yeah, it's a sizable fan campaign. So that's done, and we have started up. Well, we've been doing Dragon's Dogma 2. So that will continue for now. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said that I was just loving it and obsessed with it or anything like that. It seems fine, but, you know, people are saying, like, oh my god, game of the year, oh my god, and I just don't really see it yet. You know? But again, I think it's one of those games that I'm probably just gonna have to spend some time with on my own. To really just kind of play around with it and enjoy the open world experience and stuff and get used to everything. So, one of these days, I will, just start playing on my own, do side quests and stuff like that. Do I have a favorite Doom game? Oh boy. I know when I finished Doom 2016, I think I ranked my preferences. And I believe I put number 1 at the top. But I think I said that Doom 2016 wasn't that far behind. And then when Doom Eternal came out, I know I said I liked that better than 2016, and I definitely still do. So it might be Doom Eternal now, but I think I play Doom 1 more, partly due to it being in Archipelago. So I don't know. It might be just a tie right now between Doom 1 and Eternal. I mean, Doom 3, of course, for me, is on the bottom. It's not like a really shitty game or anything. It just, I don't know. It's almost not really a Doom game to me. And then Doom 2 would be like just above Doom 3. Just because it is still kind of the classic Doom gameplay and everything, but the level design is just so off-putting that I almost never want to replay Doom 2. Even though it is on Archipelago, like I won't even bother. You like 2016? Yeah, I mean, it's a really good game. No doubt. But every time I go to replay it, it's just like, man, I kind of prefer Eternal. And I suppose I can see why some people didn't care for Eternal after 2016. With it having a much greater emphasis on movement and movement tech during combat. But, I mean, there's really... For me, it felt like such an improvement of just increasing the, like, freneticism and speed of combat. It just feels so good. Hard to beat this shotgun. We also have grenades that I never used. We can chuck a grenade. There you go. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. I mean, so that'll continue, but I definitely need to take some time and play a little bit on my own. Oh, when did I get a machine pistol? What else? Oh yeah, I started uploading Dragon's Down. So we got Dragon's Dogma and Dragon's Down at the same time. Very different experiences though. So yeah, I gave a forewarning for Dragon's Down, but I did get a lot of rules wrong for a while. Mostly due to me just like half remembering rules from Magic Realm. And then just being like, yeah, okay, it probably works like this. And then it either, you know, I either got the Magic Realm rule incorrect, or they changed it so it wasn't like Magic Realm. It was just, yeah, not good on me, for sure. Fortunately, I'm not a board game reviewer or anything. Mostly, though, I've been playing a lot of Cataclysm. I've been playing a lot on my own. And then recently, I started recording another playthrough. Definitely a little different one, very fun one. With the Sky Island mod, which turns Cataclysm into sort of Escape from Tarkov in a zombie apocalypse. Very, very fun spin. So... look forward to that. You did. Yeah, so that's all that. Lego and I have been continuing to do a lot of Archipelago. continuing to do more Archipelago until around April 11th, because that's when the new RimWorld expansion's coming out. Anomaly. We'll finally be able to do the SCP Foundation run officially. So that'll be fun. And, that's what's happening there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, solo role-manging, of course, but we'll get to that. Over on the Exploring series, I put out a video on Magnus the Red, which, you know, performed kind of as expected, I suppose. Which is to say, not too great. When did I get all these guns? Holy shit. Okay, cool. And then this week I worked on the first video for the 8K contest, which is not SCP-8000, because inevitably the first one that I cover is almost always DJ Cactus's regardless. So he did not win the 8000 slot. He got 8001. And you know, to be fair, on the polls on Patreon to start, I put up SCP-8000, I put SCP-8001, and I didn't even name like the authors on the polls for each one. I just put them up there, and you know, people voted. So but yeah, it's a very beautiful little kind of melancholic SCP a little bit. It's a good one. It's a good one. And that's gonna go up tomorrow, April 1st. I can tell you there's no April Fool's video of any kind. Truth be told, I didn't even give it a thought this year. I finally realized, like, last week that, oh, April 1st is next week. And then it was like, well, I'm releasing a video, a normal video, on the 1st, so that'll have to do. Coming up with ideas for, like, extra videos of just, you know, general extra videos is easy. Coming up with ideas that I think would be good and would work for April Fool's videos is a lot trickier. And I'm fairly happy to just kind of break the tradition here and just, yeah, you know, I'm sure, much like the Teletubby video, which was the first one I did, that was just an idea that entered my brain, you know? Why do you... the fuck? That was just an idea that entered my brain randomly. Because I saw an article about the Teletubbies filming location and how it got, like, filled in with a pond or whatever, and it was like, oh, it's kind of weird. Shit. So, I'm sure some other year, some idea will enter my brain. Do another one, but not this year. So then this week I'll be working on the penultimate 40K video. I don't know what it is. It's either Fulgrim or Armaments of the Tau, one of the two. And, yeah, soon we'll be back to just SCP. I've actually been watching, I think the name of the channel is Dead Meat. I think. But he does like these kill count videos. For horror movies. So he'll do a video, you know, with the kill count of Prometheus or Hostel or Saw 10 or something like that. The thing is, though, really what it is just him, like, summarizing the movie and including a lot of, like, clips from the film. And, you know, he does, obviously, make note of all the deaths that occur in the film. But that's almost like a side note, really, because it's mostly just about the summary of the film. So... And to be honest, like, I don't even mind it as just, like, watching a summary of the film. Let's rock! Because, like, I watched one last night on Hostel 2, you know? And I watched Hostel 2 years and, like, when it came out, pretty much. Years and years ago. I didn't really remember any of it. But then, like, watching his whole video on it, which is like 25 minutes or something like that, it's essentially as if you watched the movie. Sort of. At least for me, because I did remember parts of it that he was showing. Especially, like, the death scenes. Like, I remember the woman, you know, doing the Elizabeth Bathory shit, and I remember that. I remember the guy, like, his legs getting eaten and stuff. But clearly, what I'm saying is, there's an audience for summarizations of film. I mean, that guy essentially does what I do, just with a very visual medium. And, you know, he obviously throws in more humor and stuff than I do. And I'm not saying necessarily that I want to summarize horror movies, although I could. But I'm sure there's an audience for summarizations of everything. You know, everything can be kind of reduced down and consumed. So, summarizations of video game stories. Obviously, we've looked at that. Summarizations of movies, of books, of creepypasta. You know, all sorts of things. But I think, in general, if this has taught me anything, it's that I probably should steer a little bit away from lore videos. And maybe look to expand more into summary videos, I guess. Summary videos, though, I don't know, it just doesn't sound as glamorous, I guess. Like, oh, I make lore videos. Explore different universes. Oh, very glamorous. Very highbrow. Like, oh yeah, I summarize horror movies. Like, oh, okay. I don't know. My aunt was like bugging me the other day because people ask her like what I do on YouTube. Like, well, how do you describe what I do? And she's never really sure because, well, one, no one really watches my videos. And, you know, two, they don't have any real understanding of what SCP is. So now I just say, like, I do book reports. I do book reports on stuff people write online. What am I missing here? Played these levels many times. No, it's definitely not this room. I don't know. Anyways, I don't really have to think about it just yet. You know, we can take some time to develop a thought, and just settle down into SCP for a little bit again. Oops, sorry, dude. I think I didn't smoke. Yeah, so that's that. Right, so solo role Mangg this week was us heading into this tomb cursed by the centaur in order to retrieve this heirloom. And basically, we decided pretty quickly going into this tomb that, you know, actually, I think that, well, we came across like a jammed door. And my first thought of an explanation was just like, this viscous yellow pus that is just all around the door frame and just jamming the entire door in the frame. And I don't know why that thought came to my head. It just did. And then I got hit with a blow dart trap going through another door. And so we kind of decided that this whole family of nobles, this family tomb of nobles, is just all kind of fucked up. And we basically decided that they were like Nurgle worshippers. You know, they worship disease and decay and stuff. And so that idea kind of blossomed out from there, which is cool. In that this curse that the centaurs put on this tomb, it basically became empowered by the general aura of like darkness and death and the belief system of the nobles that were buried here. And so it kind of took on a life of its own and started to actually physically manifest as this pus. And so we fought off this like living ooze monster that was just like a sentient blob of this pus. And we fought off some death worms. Those were fun. And we found this big statue of the patriarch of the family just covered in this pus. And Jesus. And then we started to see like a greater concentration of the pus ahead of us down a tunnel. And, you know, I figured that like this curse ended up kind of revolving around this centaur heirloom as kind of the object somewhat of the centaur's hate. And also, not just the heirloom, I guess not just the heirloom, but also the nobleman, really, that had hunted them down and was the main target of the curse. So we continued forward down this pus tunnel to try and get to the nobleman's sarcophagus or whatever, where we could find the heirloom. And there ended up being a particularly thick section of pus we decided to like try and tiptoe through. And so we decided to leave Brianna behind because she's going to have disadvantage on all these actions. She'd be very likely to just fall face first into the pus, and we weren't interested in having that happen, so she just stayed behind. She wasn't going to be that much use in a fight anyway. And I did morale checks for all the sellswords because this was kind of like above their pay grade, so to speak. So one of them did stay behind with Brianna, but the other three came with me, and we all tiptoed safely in. And we found the big sarcophagi room, the chamber with all the sarcophagi in it. And in there was also this giant mound of the pus, just pulsating. And I had decided, you know, sort of earlier on in the dungeon, that the final boss of the place was going to be this amorphous sludge monster in the bestiary. It was level 6. Level 6 monster. Which is, fairly high. Fairly high for a level 3 character and for 3 cell swords. And, I didn't even walk in with, like, a plan. We just kind of waltzed in here, because I was so interested. I was just, like, so wrapped up in the narrative of us entering this sarcophagi chamber and finding, you know, this amorphous sludge pus monster. It's like, oh my god, it's so cool and disgusting, and I didn't really think properly about, like, an actual plan of survival. Because I hadn't really even looked at the amorphous sludge's stats. It seemed like the perfect final boss, you know, for this tomb. And it kind of was, but not in a good way. He rolled really well on his initiative. We rolled pretty poorly. So he went first, and he had like 4 tentacles that he could attack with every turn. That each had their own health. So, you know, Garland was out front leading the cell swords, because they're not going to lead, you know, the troop. So he had to do that. And, he got targeted by 2 of the tentacles straight out the gate. And one of them rolled like a 19, and one of them crit. So he ended up taking 3d8 damage. And for that damage, I rolled an 8, an 8, and a 7. So, yeah, he instantly died, of course. And that's a bummer. The others all escaped, and we kind of decided that Garland didn't actually die. He just kind of had this pus, like, take over his brain, and he became this, like, living servant, mindless servant of the pus monster, which is this curse that has taken on a mind of its own. And the pus monster is now going to continue to grow and grow. So it turns out that Garland was not the chosen one for the centaurs. Sad to say. So next week we will be starting up a fresh character. I have no idea what it will be, where it will start, what kind of character. I don't know anything. All I know is it'll be a fresh level 1 character that we're probably going to just roll up randomly. And we'll see. Oh, I actually died. Wow. Oh, God. A long level, too. Over on in the family D&D, we actually had Lego join us for the first time. He has not played a tabletop RPG in like 15 years. Many years ago, we were playing 4th edition D&D, and we managed to rope him into trying it. And he only lasted 1 session. He really didn't care for it. And he never played again. But we got him to try it again. Because now, you know, he's playing with all our family members, and they're all pretty much on equal skill level and everything. So he came in, he rolled up a Crusader, because he was hoping for like a Paladin. The Crusader doesn't actually get any form of healing. It doesn't get any divine magic. It has like a lay on hands, but it can only cure like poison and disease. It can't heal damage. So he was kind of disappointed with that. And it's like, I mean, I could have just whipped him up a Paladin class, like custom thing. I just didn't even know he was coming until, like, you know, he showed up. The thing is, though, like, the classic Paladin is kind of OP. Somewhat OP. Because you get, like, heavy plate armor. You get a lot of health. You get combat abilities. And you get, like, divine magic for healing and protection and stuff. Like, it's just a little much. Especially in, like, if I just gave the Crusader access to divine magic, I think it would be a little, probably overpowered. So instead, we took his Lay on Hands ability and said that he can use it to cure, you know, poison, disease, whatever, or he can use it to cure 1d6 damage. And it's an encounter ability, so you can only use it a certain number of times per encounter. He has to touch the person to use it. I don't think it's really overpowered. And so we commenced. He took quite a while to make his character, a lot longer than anyone else. Because he actually was, like, you know, thinking about, you know, thinking about pros and cons and stuff like that. But we commenced, and they all met up, and he got right into it. You know, he took command. He was not hesitant in his role-playing decisions. And I asked him what kind of deity he might want to be interested in serving. And unlike my family members, my other family members, he didn't just say Jesus, which is a big plus, I think. And so he ended up serving just like the God of Light. Classic sort of example. And he asked, like, what kind of, you know, what sort of penance he should be following, what sort of things should he be doing to follow that deity. So, you know, just classic Paladin stuff. Protect the innocent, bring light to darkness, consecrate evil places, so on and so forth. But it allows me to actually finally use the sort of deity mechanics of Heroes of Adventure, where if you follow a deity and you actually, like, do as you should and follow their tenets and things like that, you earn favor points, divine favor points, that you can then spend to sort of cast, like, divine spells, even if you're not a spellcaster. So I think that's a lot of fun, because any character could do that then. So I'm hoping that he'll, like, be able to show that off then, and show off the potential for other people to be like, hey, maybe I should also serve a deity. It doesn't have to be divine magic either. Like, if you serve a god of nature, I'll give you access to some nature spells with your divine favor points. Let's use this thing. God. Hard shot. Fuck. There you go. Just give me a moment. Jesus. Anyways, so they were kind of explaining, you know, their possible choices of where they could go. Take care of the orcs, take care of the goblins in the castle, then go to Wave Echo Cave. And then they were even asking the bartender about anything else that he may have heard that people are saying. And so I introduced another potential avenue of them going to the sort of like old settlement of Thunder Tree to help out a druid there, because there's been like a sighting of a dragon, all this sort of stuff. And so then Lego rolled the first lore check of the entire campaign. To find out more information about dragons and sort of what their interest is in humans and how they interact with humans and stuff. And so that allowed me to kind of just expand on some of the world building, which was nice. For the first time, someone takes an interest in lore. And they decided to set their sights on the orcs, because the orcs have been raiding locals on the trail in and out of Phandalin. So is this a pressing concern? So they decide to go after the orcs. And Lego comes up with this plan of like, he'll ride it kind of alone out in the open with the wagon. And everyone else would be inside of the wagon covered up. So he'll kind of be bait, and they'll try and bait out the orcs. And it's not really much a bait if you're being ambushed. I don't know why that would be better than ambushing the orcs in their base. But it's not the DM's position to say these sort of things. And so, you know, I had them roll along, go on the trail and all this, and I had them roll d20s, you know, every so often for like a random encounter check. And then at night, when they were getting close to the orc base, they did get attacked. And I actually did roll randomly on the random encounter table in the adventure. And it ended up being orcs. So it's like, all right, that works. So they got ambushed by some orcs. And it wasn't too tough of a fight. There was like 4 of them, I think. And they managed to take one alive, which is the first creature they managed to take alive in the whole campaign. And so they actually brought up the question initially of like, can we talk to this guy? Like, can they understand him? And I had said before that I wasn't really messing around with languages too much, but I was like, okay, this could be interesting, I suppose. I didn't even know that some of the character players had put points into languages so they could speak other languages. So we kind of sat there for a bit and let them decide what other languages they speak. And so they ended up not choosing Orcish because it was just kind of a lame choice just for this one situation. I think one player picked like Elven and Talesian, the language that the Empire of Talis speaks, and then the other player picked Draconic because it's just cool. So neither of them could speak Orcish, so I decided to have their little goblin buddy Ray step in and say that he speaks Orcish. So they did all their translating through Ray. And they basically wanted the orc to lead them to the orc base. And the orc said that he would do it for 100 silver. And Lego said that he'll give him 150 silver. Because he really wants, you know, he wants him to be trustworthy. He wants him to stick around and make sure he gets his money. It's certainly a different kind of paladin, that's for sure. And I asked him if he was telling the truth in his heart of hearts, and he said he was, so okay. And they learned that the orc base is going to have 12 orcs in it with a leader and an ogre. And so they sat there for quite a while thinking of a big plan of how to take out this stuff. And so the Lego was very adamant that they had to take out the ogre immediately. That was essential. They have to just roast him. So they devised this plan where one player would sneak up and throw a pot of tar onto the ogre and then light him on fire, and he would just go up in flames and he'd be out of commission. Now, fire typically, is going to do a set amount of, it's going to do, I don't know, 2d8 damage or something like that per turn. So, depending on rolls, an ogre could be around in combat for a while, swinging his club or his fists or what, rolling, causing chaos. But, okay, fine. They didn't really have any other plan for the 12 other orcs and the leader. The only plan was just based around taking care of the ogre very quickly. So they get led to where the orc base is, which is kind of up on a little precipice against the mountains. So the orcs have a very good view of the kind of surrounding territory and this valley leading up to their base. But I said, there was a sparse amount of cover, trees and rocks and stuff, that if they were skillful, perhaps they could slowly inch forward in cover. So they start doing, some stealth checks, and they get to within 150 feet. And then the player with the tar is sent forward alone. And so that player, my mom, ends up getting within 50 feet. And that's when she decides, okay, she throws the tar, she rolls really well, and she hits the orc. Or she hits the ogre and covers his chest in tar. And then I was not really paying attention when they were coming up with all their plans. Just because I was, working on some notes and other stuff. So I wasn't really paying attention with the whole plan. But apparently now she was going to throw her lantern so that it would hit the ogre and light him on fire. And I'm like, okay, so you're throwing your lantern upwards, 50 feet at an angle, up onto a cliff to hit an ogre in the chest. And she rolled, and she did not roll too well, so it just smashed. She rolled a 4, so it just smashed against the side of the cliff. And initially the orcs were all very confused about where this pot of tar came in, but they saw the lantern fly out of the, the trees. So she starts running now, and they chuck all their hand axes. And Lego was very incredulous that they could throw hand axes 50 feet. And it's like, I don't think that's that ridiculous. I mean, the book says they can throw it up to 60 feet, so, you know. I gave them disadvantage even on their rolls. Because they're throwing it kind of into tree cover from a distance. But even still, 7 of them throwing hand axes at disadvantage. A few of them still landed a hit. And so she actually went down while running back. So then, you know, a couple of the others start like shooting arrows at the orcs. So now the orcs know that there's others out there. So they start charging down. And it was a big distance, 150 feet. And we used like a big setup of the battle mat. But, you know, distances get closed when they're running 60 feet a turn. And they all have great axes, D12. Which is pretty insane. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. And so they got into a big brawl. But it didn't go too well. And then the only spellcaster of the group, my nephew, decides to put out his swarm of fireflies or whatever that does fire damage in the whole area. To all targets. And so by itself, it has a range, a radius, a diameter, whatever, of 30 feet. But he decided that he was going to empower it. He was going to spend 3 health to really amp it up. He had the magic sheet. I had given it to him that showed what charging and empowering does. I think I had even said at some point that it does bump up all the stats of the spell. And yet they were still surprised when he dropped this fucking bomb that hit everyone. All the players, all the orcs, everyone, for D20 damage. Now, I was kind. Because the spell does not actually allow for any sort of save for half damage, but I gave it. And he did mercifully roll pretty low. He rolled a 7. So people that rolled to try and save ended up only taking 4 damage, which ended up being all the orcs because I gave them 1 save. So it really wasn't that devastating, but it was just kind of a funny experience of them learning what exactly it means to empower a spell like that. Empowering magic is very powerful, as we've seen in the solo game as well. And so, yeah, they started fighting the orcs, but they were just so, you know, overwhelmed by the numbers that they all died. Pretty much they all died, except for one character managed to flee, along with Ray the Goblin. And so they got out of there. And so it seemed like just a big TPK, and they were kind of all pretty sour on that. And I was like, alright, I don't know. TPK seems a little rough. I think they kind of learned a lesson here. So I decided that they wake up a few hours later in the woods. And they discover that all their money is missing. And so I explained that the orc that they had spared, and Lego had promised 150 silver, he basically took control of the warband. And he spared their lives in exchange for a lot more money than he had been promised. So they lost all their money, but now they're all still alive. And overall, most of them were pretty pleased with that arrangement because they didn't really want to make a new character. But now they're broke. Except for the one character that got away. They're all broke. So that's where we ended up. And I think I did level them up to level 3. So they can go back now to the orcs and try and get their money back, but you know, orcs really kind of respect wealth and power and stuff like that. So you have this orc now that beat up a whole bunch of skilled adventurers, and he managed to get like thousands of silver in the process. Like, word will spread about this orc, and his warband now is going to grow quite a bit. So depending on how long they take before they go back, he might have an entire like encampment there now with like 100 orcs. And if they don't deal with these orcs soon, they're gonna become a much bigger problem for the area until like the actual military has to come in. So, you know, they basically just funded the orcs expansion. We'll see. So, I mean, overall, they all enjoyed the session, and LEGO enjoyed the session. But, you know, growing pains, of course. All right, I think that's going to do it. Good stuff, though. So we've got more Dragon's Dogma, more Dragon's Down, and we've got SCP-8001, The Edge of the World by DJ Cactus tomorrow. Good stuff. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.